name is John Moody. I'm a watercolour artist. Having practiced in England for many years, I taught in colleges and schools, and now I live in Andalusia in Spain. And as you can see, this is the view that I get every morning when I come out with my cup of tea, and it's a very tranquil area, and it allows me the space and time I need to do the paintings that I want to do. What I plan to do is a series of videos which you'll be able to download off of YouTube with the correct code, and it's linked to a book, an e-book that I'm writing about watercolour painting. So the idea being that when you describe something either in words or just in still pictures in a book, it's sometimes difficult to get over the basic problems that you have when you paint, whereas with a video you can actually see the person's hand painting. You know, it gives you a much better idea of what you have to do. So there'll be a whole series of videos, 10 minutes each roughly, showing you different aspects of painting in watercolour, how to tackle the problems, and hopefully they will be of use to you. So anyway, we'll go inside my cave house, which I've been converting for the last couple of years, and start the first lesson as soon as possible. Thank you. Bye.
Well, now we're inside, and before I get painting, I'd just like to explain a little bit about the materials that you need if you haven't done any painting before. The most important thing really is the paper. If you use cartridge paper or any cheap form, you'll find that it's not very good. It will buckle, it will soak up the water, it will cause you a lot of problems. So you need to buy watercolour paper. You can buy it in pads or on sheets, and the thicker that you get, the better, and try and get a reasonable make. And when you find a particular paper that you like, then you stick to that. The second thing you need is some paintbrushes. Now, you don't need to buy expensive paintbrushes. You can buy mix, nylon, Daylon mix brushes. You need a very fine one, which will have a number on it, probably an O or a double O. You need a brush that's a 4 or 5. You'll notice they've all got points on them. You'll want something a bit bigger. This one's an 8. And then you need a larger brush for putting a wash down, and this one's a 16. Then keep old brushes, because they're always very useful for texture and for washing paint on. Don't throw anything away. And you need a pencil. Believe it or not, you need a cheap ordinary HB pencil, because you don't want anything too dark to show up on your paper. You need to stick your paper down onto a stiff board, not a thin piece of board, and the best thing to use is white, this sort of gum paper that you can get, where you have to lick it. It tastes wonderful, believe me. And normally what would happen is that you would soak your piece of paper, you would shake off the excess, put it flat on the board, tape it down and leave it overnight. The thicker the paper, the less you have to do this, but if it's a thin watercolour paper, it's a good thing to do. It will save your picture buckling. You need a palette to mix on. You can just use an ordinary plate, that's no problem. You need a water bowl, obviously, and you need paints. You can buy student quality or you can buy artist quality, the difference being the price. You need to buy for what you need to paint. Now that sounds silly, but if you're doing landscapes, there is really no need in having a whole host of strange colours. You can get away with a set of colours. The burnt sienna is a lovely brown colour that is very good to use. Payne's grey is a dark bluey grey that substitutes for black. You need a nice strong cadmium yellow, nice strong cadmium red, and try and mix your greens. You can buy all sorts of different greens, olive greens, but it's best to mix them. They tend to be more natural if you put other tones in with them. So you're getting a set of tubes, maybe a set to start with. You only buy student quality. Or you can buy pans. Now I tend to use these pans. It looks a nice mess, but what happens is that when one gets empty, I can fill it up from a tube and keep going with these things. Some people like their paints all nice and clean. I tend to use mine grubby because it gives me nice mixes that are probably unintentional but quite often work. So that's basically all you need. You shouldn't need to spend a fortune. As you get further into painting more regularly, and if you really like it, then you can add a whole series of other brushes that will do different jobs for you. You know, ones that you can use for making trees look good and the rest of it. So anyway, what we need to do is clear all this off and mix up some paint. Okay, so let's get down to some painting. Now there's a technique called wet on wet, which is basically that you wet your paper first and then you apply wet paint obviously on top of it, and what happens is that the capillary action, the paint spreads naturally, and it'll often give you very nice atmospheric backgrounds which you then can build on top with detail. So this is what we're going to start off doing. So I'm using you need to sort of just try and look at it from a strange angle to see if the gloss covers the whole of the area. You can add quite a lot of paint. Okay, so now I'm going to put some colour in. Now skies obviously tend to be blue, but they're not. They're usually a lot of different colours, so I'm going to try and create some atmosphere, and I'm going to just put in a bit of a warm colour. This is a yellow and a red mix, and it's come out slightly brown, but it's very light. I'm not putting a lot of paint on, and I'm leaving lots of little spaces between it. Then I'm going to put my blue in, and you have to be a little bit careful because the colour that you're putting together is yellow, and you're putting blue together, which obviously if they mix makes green. Now you notice that my board is at a slight angle, and I'm just introducing the paint the top corners and letting it naturally run down, trying to leave some white spaces. And when I'm coming over the top of the yellow, I'm being a little bit careful not to scumble away. It's an art term, believe me, and turn it into green. So I want to let the paper and the water do the majority of work. So I'm going to not fuss it. You can overdo these things, and I'm going to put a little bit more dark, so bring that over the top as well and coming down. And at this point you can actually help it along, because you can see that it's running down the page a bit, but if it's not doing it enough, if you haven't wet the paper enough, you can actually blow the paint about. You can hold your board up and blow it, or you can shake your board, which also helps. I'm not going to do this, but if you do it at an angle, the paint will run diagonally and it might look like sleeting rain. And you can go on adding your colour to this from the top, and this is really dark now, but each time you're doing less of it, and there will come a time when your paper starts to dry, and if you continue to do it you'll end up with problems. So you have to learn to judge how long it takes for your paper to dry and whether you're overdoing it. So I'm going to turn that round and I'm going to blow. I'm sure that sounds really good on the thing, and you can also shake it. I'm sure this is all going out of focus on the camera, but never mind. Now in a minute we're going to run out of time on this particular video, so what I suggest you do is you get 2 or 3 pieces of paper and practice that, and then come along and look at video 2 when I will take on the bottom part of the picture and make it slightly better.